The unexpected visitor. The twin sons of Epsilon Eridani cast long shadows across the rust-colored plains of Novaterra. Dr. Samantha Reeves stood at the entrance of her research station, a squat prefab structure that had been her home for the past 3 years. The isolation of this barren world was supposed to be her refuge, a place to lose herself in xenobiology studies and forget the pain of her past. But today, something was different. Samantha's eyes narrowed as she scanned the horizon. The proximity sensors had gone off an hour ago, an unusual occurrence on a planet with no large native fauna. She adjusted the settings on her binoculars, sweeping them across the undulating terrain of rust-colored rock and sparse alien vegetation. There, a flicker of movement. Samantha focused, her breath catching in her throat. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her, a mirage born of loneliness and the planet's thin atmosphere. But as the shape drew closer, stumbling and swaying, she realized this was no illusion. It looked like a baby elephant, but not quite. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent blue hue, and its trunk seemed too short, almost stunted. Most striking of all was its head, disproportionately large and domed, with a pulsing, glowing moon near the top. "What in the world?" Samantha whispered, lowering her binoculars. Her scientific mind raced with possibilities. This creature couldn't be native to Novaterra. Nothing in her extensive surveys had ever hinted at life forms this complex. It had to be alien, truly alien, from beyond this star system. The creature stumbled again, letting out a keening cry that was part trumpet, part electronic whine. It was in pain, that much was clear, and it was coming straight for her station. Samantha's first instinct was to retreat inside, to lock the doors and call for an emergency evacuation. Protocol dictated no contact with unknown alien life forms, but as she watched the pitiful creature drag itself forward, leaving a trail of luminescent ichor in its wake, she felt something stir within her. Compassion, curiosity, the very things that had driven her to become a scientist in the first place. "Damn the protocols," she muttered, stepping out onto the rocky soil. The alien baby, for that's what it seemed to be, raised its trunk weakly at her approach. Its eyes, huge and liquid black, seemed to plead for help. Samantha knelt beside it, her heart pounding. Up close, the wound on its head looked even worse, a crater-like hole that pulsed with strange, fibrous tendrils. "Oh, you poor thing," she breathed. "What happened to you?" The creature's trunk brushed against her arm, and suddenly Samantha's mind exploded with images. A sleek ship streaking through the stars, a desperate flight, weapons fire, a crash landing on this desolate world. The jarring sensations left her gasping, reeling backward. "You're telepathic," she managed, staring at the alien in wonder. It blinked slowly, a wave of exhaustion and pain washing over Samantha. Whatever this being was, wherever it had come from, it was dying, and it had come to her for help. Samantha made her decision in that moment. She gently scooped the alien baby into her arms, marveling at how light it was despite its size. "It's okay," she murmured, not sure if it could understand her words, but hoping it could sense her intent. "I've got you. We'll figure this out together." As she carried the wounded creature into her station, Samantha's mind whirled with questions. What was this being? Where had it come from? And most pressingly, what had shot it down? And were they still in pursuit? The door of the research station hissed shut behind them, sealing them off from the harsh Novaterran environment. Samantha laid the alien gently on her examination table, her training kicking in despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. "First things first," she said, more to herself than to her strange new patient. "Let's get you stabilized." She reached for her medical kit, designed for human physiology, but hopefully adaptable enough for this crisis. As Samantha worked, cleaning the wound and administering broad-spectrum antibiotics, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just stepped into something far bigger than herself. Her quiet exile on Novaterra was over. For better or worse, The universe had come knocking at her door, in the form of a wounded alien baby with eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the cosmos. The creature stirred, its trunk weakly curling around Samantha's wrist. Another flood of images filled her mind, but this time there was something else, a feeling. Gratitude, mingled with fear, and a sense of desperate urgency. "They're coming," Samantha whispered, the alien's message becoming clear in her mind. "Whoever did this to you, they're coming here." She looked down at the helpless being on her table, then out the window at the desolate landscape of Novaterra. Samantha Reeves, exile and xenobiologist, realized that she now stood as the only line of defense between this innocent creature and whatever terrors lurked among the stars. "Well," she said, a grim smile playing at the corners of her mouth, "I guess my quiet retirement is officially over." She stroked the alien's smooth iridescent skin. "Don't worry, little one. I won't let them hurt you again." As the twin suns of Epsilon Eridani sank below the horizon, bathing Novaterra in an eerie twilight, Samantha Reeves prepared for a night that would change not just her life, but potentially the fate of two species. The hunt was coming, and she would be ready. A desperate healing. The soft beep of medical equipment filled the air of Samantha's makeshift infirmary. She had converted her primary research lab into a treatment center for her unexpected alien patient, jury-rigging equipment meant for soil analysis and atmospheric testing into crude but functional life support systems. The alien baby elephant, Samantha had taken to calling it Nova in her mind, lay still on the examination table. Its breathing was shallow but steady, the wound on its head still pulsing with an otherworldly glow. Samantha leaned in close, carefully examining the strange, fibrous tendrils that seemed to be slowly knitting the injury closed. "Extraordinary," she murmured, making notes on her tablet. "Some kind of accelerated healing factor, maybe. Or are those tendrils actually a form of nanotechnology?" The scientist in her was fascinated, eager to unravel the mysteries of Nova's biology. But the human in her was worried sick, acutely aware of the creature's pain and the looming threat of its pursuers. Nova's trunk twitched, and another wave of images washed over Samantha. She was getting better at interpreting these telepathic communications, sorting through the alien concepts and sensations to find meaning. "Easy there," she soothed, gently stroking Nova's side. "I know you're scared, but you're safe here, I promise." Even as she said the words, Samantha wondered if she could keep that promise. Her research station wasn't exactly a fortress, and she had no idea what kind of firepower might be coming their way. The images in her mind shifted, becoming more focused. Samantha saw a vast ship, sleek and predatory, cutting through the darkness of space. Alien beings moved within it, their forms shadowy and indistinct, but radiating menace. They were hunters, that much was clear, and Nova was their prey. But why? Samantha asked aloud, frustrated by the gaps in her understanding. What makes you so special that they'd chase you across the galaxy? Nova's enormous eyes blinked slowly, and Samantha felt a new sensation. It wasn't just images this time, but a complex swirl of emotions and abstract concepts. She concentrated, trying to piece together the fragments of alien thought. "You're important," she said slowly, working it out as she spoke. "Your people, they're not just intelligent. You're connected, somehow, to each other, to the fabric of space itself." Samantha shook her head, knowing she was only scratching the surface of something profound. A sudden spike in Nova's vitals drew her attention back to the present. The wound on its head was pulsing more rapidly now, the tendrils writhing with increased urgency. Samantha's heart raced as she realized the creature was going into some kind of shock. "No, no, no," she muttered, rushing to adjust the makeshift life support. "Don't you dare die on me, Nova. We've come too far for that." She administered a cocktail of stimulants and stabilizers, praying that the alien physiology wouldn't react badly to the human medications. For several tense minutes, Samantha worked feverishly, her hands moving with the precision born of years of fieldwork. She spoke constantly to Nova, words of encouragement mingling with snatches of scientific jargon as she fought to keep the alien baby alive. Finally, agonizingly, Nova's readings began to stabilize. Samantha slumped against the table, exhausted but relieved. "That's it," she breathed. "You're a fighter, aren't you?" As if in response, Nova's trunk reached out weakly, brushing against Samantha's hand. The telepathic connection flared to life once more, but this time it was different. Instead of fragmented images or abstract concepts, Samantha felt gratitude. Pure, simple, and heartbreakingly sincere. "You're welcome," she said softly, surprised to find tears in her eyes. "I told you, we're in this together now." A sharp beeping from her computer terminal shattered the moment. Samantha's head snapped up, her body tensing. It was a proximity alert. Something was entering Novaterra's atmosphere. "They're here," Samantha whispered, a chill running down her spine. She looked down at Nova, seeing the fear reflected in those huge alien eyes. "I won't let them take you," she promised fiercely. "Whatever you are, whatever they want you for, you deserve a chance to live freely." Moving quickly, Samantha began to gather supplies. Food, water, portable power cells, and every piece of defensive equipment she could find. It wasn't much. Her research station wasn't exactly an armory, but it would have to do. As she worked, her mind raced. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to hand Nova over. To explain to these alien hunters that she was just a human scientist, uninvolved in whatever cosmic game they were playing. But Samantha knew, deep in her heart, that she could never do that. Something profound had happened when she first locked eyes with the wounded alien child. A connection had been forged, one that transcended species and maybe even the limits of conventional science. "Okay, Nova," Samantha said, hefting a makeshift go-bag onto her shoulder. "Time for us to disappear." She gently lifted the alien baby, cradling it against her chest. Nova's trunk curled weakly around her arm, and Samantha felt a wave of trust and affection wash over her. Together, the human woman and the alien child slipped out the back of the research station. The vast, rugged landscape of Novaterra stretched before them, harsh and unforgiving. But somewhere out there was safety, a chance for Nova to heal, and for Samantha to unravel the mysteries that had quite literally fallen into her lap. As they moved into the deepening shadows of the alien world, Samantha allowed herself a grim smile. She had come to Novaterra to lose herself in solitude and scientific pursuit. Instead, she had found purpose, wonder, and a connection she never could have imagined. The hunt was on, but Samantha Reeves, exile turned protector, was ready to fight for this new life she had chosen. For Nova, for herself, and for the incredible possibilities that lay ahead. Hunters from the stars. The twin moons of Novaterra cast an eerie, blue-tinged light across the rocky landscape. Samantha Reeves crouched behind a wind-carved boulder, her breath coming in short, controlled gasps. Nova, the alien baby elephant, was nestled against her chest in a makeshift sling, its large eyes wide with fear. They had been on the run for 3 days, pushing themselves to the limit as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Samantha's years of field research on this harsh world were paying off, allowing her to find hidden water sources and avoid the more dangerous areas. But now, as she peered cautiously around the edge of their rocky shelter, she knew their luck had run out. A sleek, predatory ship hovered silently above the plain, its hull gleaming in the moonlight. It was unlike anything Samantha had ever seen, all curves and angles that seemed to defy conventional engineering. As she watched, a hatch arised open in its underside, and 3 figures descended on beams of shimmering energy. "Okay, Nova," Samantha whispered, stroking the alien's iridescent skin. "Let's get a look at who we're dealing with." She fumbled in her pack for a pair of high-powered binoculars, adjusting them to focus on the distant figures. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. The aliens were tall, easily 7 feet in height, with bodies that seemed to shimmer and shift like smoke given form. Their heads were elongated, with no discernible eyes or mouth, just smooth, featureless plains that somehow radiated menace. "Well," Samantha muttered, "I guess the little green men's stories were a bit off the mark." She felt Nova tremble against her, and a wave of terror washed over her through their telepathic link. These beings were hunters, predators of the highest order, and they had come for Nova. One of the aliens raised an arm, and a beam of energy shot from its hand, sweeping across the landscape. Samantha ducked down, her heart pounding. Some kind of scanning technology, she realized. They were searching methodically, and it was only a matter of time before they found their hiding spot. "We need a plan," Samantha said, as much to herself as to Nova. "We can't outrun them, not with that ship. And I'm pretty sure my stunner isn't going to do much against whatever they're packing." She looked down at Nova, seeing the trust and fear mingled in those huge alien eyes. "But I'm not giving up on you. Not now, not ever." Suddenly, an idea sparked in Samantha's mind. It was risky, borderline insane, but it just might work. She reached into her pack, pulling out a small device she had salvaged from her research station. It was an atmospheric density modulator, designed to create small, localized changes in air pressure for her experiments on Nova Terra's climate. "Okay, little one," Samantha said, her fingers flying over the device's controls. "I'm going to need your help for this. Can you send out a telepathic signal? Something big and attention-grabbing." Nova's trunk curled around her wrist, and Samantha felt a surge of determination from the alien child. She nodded, setting the modulator down on the ground. "All right. On my mark, you broadcast as loud as you can. Let's give these hunters something to chase." Samantha took a deep breath, steeling herself. Then she pressed the activation switch on the modulator and yelled, "Now." Several things happened at once. The modulator hummed to life, creating a swirling vortex of air that kicked up dust and debris. At the same time, Samantha felt a massive surge of psychic energy emanate from Nova. It was so powerful that she staggered, her vision blurring for a moment. The effect on the alien hunters was immediate and dramatic. Their smoky forms writhed and contorted, and a high-pitched keening filled the air. The scanning beams went wild, slicing erratically across the landscape. "It's working," Samantha exclaimed. She scooped up Nova and the modulator, then began to run. The swirling dust storm provided cover, obscuring them from both visual and technological detection. She could hear the hunters behind them, their movements chaotic and disoriented. As they ran, Samantha's mind raced. The hunters' reaction to Nova's psychic blast confirmed her growing suspicions. Whatever Nova's species was, they possessed incredible mental powers, powers that these hunters both feared and desired. The implications were staggering. Samantha's lungs burned as she ran. Nova clutched tightly against her chest. The dust storm created by her improvised plan swirled around them, providing crucial cover. Behind them, she could hear the disoriented shrieks of the alien hunters, their normally precise movements now chaotic and confused. Just a little further, Samantha gasped, her eyes fixed on a narrow canyon ahead. She had discovered it during her earlier explorations of Nova Terra, and now it might be their salvation. The winding passages and electromagnetic interference from the mineral-rich walls would make it difficult for the hunters to track them. As they reached the canyon's mouth, Samantha risked a glance back. Through the settling dust, she saw the alien hunters regrouping, their smoky forms seeming to congeal and solidify. One of them raised an arm, and a bolt of crackling energy sizzled past Samantha's head, leaving a scorch mark on the canyon wall. "Time to disappear," Samantha muttered, plunging into the narrow passage. The footing was treacherous, loose scree sliding under her boots, but she pushed on. Nova's trunk curled around her arm, and she felt waves of fear and exhaustion emanating from the alien child. I know," Samantha panted, "but we can't stop now. We have to keep moving." They wound their way deeper into the canyon, the towering walls blocking out the dim light of Nova Terra's moons. Samantha fumbled in her pack for a light stick, cracking it to life. The soft blue glow illuminated their path, casting eerie shadows on the rock faces. After what felt like hours of tense, careful movement, Samantha finally allowed herself to slow down. She found a small alcove, hidden behind a fallen boulder, and gratefully sank to the ground. Nova stirred in her arms, those huge eyes blinking up at her. "Okay," Samantha said, her voice hoarse. "I think we've bought ourselves some time. Let's see how you're doing." She gently examined Nova, relief washing over her as she saw that the wound on its head had continued to heal. The strange, fibrous tendrils had woven themselves into a delicate lattice, covering the injury. Nova's trunk brushed against Samantha's temple, and suddenly her mind was filled with a cascade of images and sensations. She saw a vast, shimmering city suspended in space, beings of pure energy dancing among the stars. She felt the profound connection that linked Nova's species, a telepathic network that spanned galaxies. "You're not just intelligent," Samantha breathed, awe filling her voice. You're like cosmic consciousness given form. No wonder those hunters want you so badly." Nova's mental touch conveyed agreement, but also a deep sadness. Samantha concentrated, trying to understand. "You're the last?" she asked, her heart aching. "The others, your family, they're—" A wave of grief washed over her, so profound that tears sprang to Samantha's eyes. Nova's people had been hunted to near extinction, their incredible mental powers coveted by species like the smoke-like hunters. This child, this innocent being, was perhaps the last hope for an entire civilization. "I won't let them take you," Samantha said fiercely, hugging Nova close. "I promise you that. Whatever it takes, we'll find a way to keep you safe." A low rumble echoed through the canyon, causing loose pebbles to skitter across the ground. Samantha tensed, her hand instinctively tightening on Nova. "That's not good," she muttered. She peered out from their hiding spot, her heart sinking as she saw a faint glow approaching from the direction they had come. The hunters had entered the canyon, and they were methodically making their way forward, using some kind of energy field to clear a path. "So much for buying time," Samantha said grimly. She looked down at Nova, seeing the trust and fear mingled in those alien eyes. "Okay, little one, we got two choices. We can keep running, try to stay ahead of them. Or—" She trailed off, an idea forming in her mind. It was risky, potentially suicidal, but it might be their only chance. Or we can make a stand. Use what we know about them, about you, to turn the tables. Nova's trunk curled around her wrist, and Samantha felt a surge of determination from the alien child. There was fear there too, but also a steely resolve that belied Nova's young age. "All right then," Samantha said, a grim smile playing at her lips. "Let's show these hunters what happens when they mess with a human and a telepathic space elephant." She began to unpack the last of her equipment, her mind racing as she formulated a plan. The hunters were powerful, technologically advanced, but they had weaknesses. Their reaction to Nova's psychic blast had proven that. And Samantha had a few tricks up her sleeve, improvised weapons and tools that might just even the odds. As the glow from the approaching hunters grew brighter, Samantha made her final preparations. She looked at Nova, feeling a fierce protectiveness surge through her. "Whatever happens," she said softly, "I want you to know that meeting you has been the most incredible experience of my life. You've shown me wonders I never dreamed existed." Nova's mental touch was warm, filled with gratitude and affection. For a moment, Samantha saw herself through the alien's eyes. Not just a human, but a protector, a friend, a beacon of hope in a hostile universe. "Okay," Samantha said, hefting a makeshift weapon in one hand and cradling Nova with the other. "Let's rewrite some galactic history." As the hunters rounded the final bend, Samantha stepped out to face them. She was no longer just a scientist in exile, but a defender of a cosmic legacy, and she was ready for the fight of her life. Flight through the wasteland. The confrontation in the canyon had been chaos incarnate. Samantha's makeshift weapons and Nova's psychic abilities had caught the hunters off guard, creating a maelstrom of energy blasts, swirling debris, and mental shockwaves. In the confusion, Samantha had managed to slip past the disoriented aliens. Nova clutched tightly to her chest. Now, as the first light of Novaterra's twin suns peeked over the horizon, Samantha found herself stumbling across a vast, desolate plain. The adrenaline that had fueled their escape was fading, replaced by bone-deep exhaustion and gnawing fear. "We can't keep this up forever," Samantha muttered, her voice hoarse from thirst and exertion. She looked down at Nova, whose large eyes blinked slowly, fatigue evident in every line of the alien's small body. "But we can't give up either, can we?" Nova's trunk curled weakly around Samantha's wrist, and a flood of images filled her mind. Vast starfields, shimmering with possibility. Worlds teeming with life, some familiar, others utterly alien. And through it all, a sense of hope, fragile but persistent. Samantha smiled despite her exhaustion. "You're right," she said softly. "There's too much at stake to give up now. Come on, let's find some shelter and regroup." As they trudged across the barren landscape, Samantha's scientific mind couldn't help but catalog their surroundings. The soil here was different, studded with strange, crystalline formations that caught the early morning light. In the distance, she could see towering rock spires, twisted into impossible shapes by Novaterra's harsh winds. "You know," Samantha said to Nova, her voice taking on a lecturing tone born of years in academia, "under different circumstances, I'd be thrilled to study this region. The geological formations here are fascinating." She cut off abruptly as her foot caught on something hidden beneath the sand. Samantha stumbled, barely managing to keep her balance and protect Nova from the fall. Heart pounding, she knelt to examine what had tripped her. "No way," she breathed, brushing away the loose soil. Beneath the sand lay a piece of metal, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and move as she watched. "This isn't natural. This is..." Nova's mental touch confirmed her suspicions. This was a piece of advanced technology, far beyond anything humans had developed. And it was old, incredibly, unimaginably old. "Your people," Samantha said, looking at Nova with wide eyes. "They'd been here before, haven't they? Novaterra, it's not just some random planet. It means something to your species." The alien child's response was a complex swirl of emotions and half-formed memories. Samantha got the impression of an ancient conflict, a desperate flight across the stars, and a last stand on this very world. Novaterra had been a sanctuary once, eons ago, for Nova's people. "And now history is repeating itself," Samantha murmured. She stood, cradling Nova close. "But this time, we're going to write a different ending." With renewed determination, Samantha set off toward the distant rock spires. If Nova's people had been here before, there might be something hidden among those twisted formations. A weapon, a communication device, or even a ship. Something that could turn the tide against the relentless hunters. As they walked, Samantha felt a change in Nova. The alien child seemed more alert, its mental touch growing stronger and more focused. Was it the proximity to this ancient place of power? Or was Nova simply growing, developing in ways Samantha couldn't yet understand? They had covered perhaps half the distance to the rock spires when a low hum filled the air. Samantha's heart sank as she recognized the sound. The hunter's ship was approaching. "No, no, no," she muttered, frantically scanning the featureless plain for any kind of cover. There was nothing. Nowhere to hide from the advanced sensors she knew the ship must possess. Nova's trunk tightened around her arm, and suddenly Samantha's mind was filled with a presence far more powerful than anything she had experienced before. It wasn't just images or emotions this time, but a fully formed thought, alien yet perfectly clear. "We must stand and fight." Samantha blinked in surprise. "Nova, was that? Did you just..." There was no time for further questions. The hunter's ship crested a low hill, its sleek form gleaming in the morning light. It hovered there for a moment, as if savoring its victory, before slowly descending toward them. Samantha set Nova gently on the ground, then stood tall, facing the approaching ship. She had no weapons left, no clever tricks up her sleeve. But she had something the hunters could never understand: a human's capacity for defiance in the face of impossible odds. "All right," she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "You want to take Nova? You'll have to go through me first." The ship touched down, kicking up a cloud of crystalline dust. The hatch arised open, and the three smoke-like hunters emerged, their forms seeming to absorb the light around them. Samantha braced herself for the end, determined to protect Nova with her last breath. But then something extraordinary happened. Nova began to glow, a soft blue light emanating from its entire body. The light grew brighter, pulsing in time with some unheard rhythm. Samantha felt a surge of power, unlike anything she had ever experienced. The hunters stopped in their tracks, their featureless heads tilted in what might have been confusion or fear. Nova's glow intensified, and suddenly the air was filled with shimmering, translucent forms, the ghosts or echoes of Nova's people, awakened by their last child's desperate call. Samantha watched in awe as these spectral beings surrounded them, forming a protective barrier between the hunters and their prey. The hunters recoiled, their smoke-like bodies roiling in obvious distress. Nova's mental voice echoed in Samantha's mind once more, filled with a mixture of sorrow and determination. "It is time to end this chase, once and for all." As the ghostly guardians advanced on the terrified hunters, Samantha realized that the true battle was just beginning, and its outcome would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of the entire galaxy. The last stand. The air crackled with energy as Nova's ancestral guardians advanced on the hunters. Samantha stood rooted to the spot, her mind struggling to process the otherworldly scene unfolding before her. The translucent forms of Nova's species, long thought extinct, swirled around the smoke-like bodies of the hunters, creating a dazzling display of light and shadow. Nova, still glowing with that soft blue radiance, stood firm beside Samantha. The alien child's mental voice rang clear in her mind. "We must end this cycle of violence. Help me reach them, Samantha." Samantha blinked in surprise. "Reach them? Nova, they've been hunting you across the galaxy. They're not exactly open to negotiations." But even as she spoke, Samantha noticed something odd. The hunters weren't fighting back. Their writhing, smoke-like forms seemed more defensive than aggressive, almost afraid. "They hunt because they fear," Nova's thoughts explained. "They do not understand us, so they seek to control or destroy. But there is another way." Realization dawned on Samantha. "You want to communicate with them. Show them what you really are." Nova's mental affirmation was tinged with determination and hope. Samantha took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Okay, little one. I'm with you. What do you need me to do?" "Be my anchor," Nova replied. "Your mind, your compassion. They give me strength. Help me bridge the gap." Samantha knelt beside Nova, placing a hand gently on the alien child's shimmering skin. She felt a surge of energy course through her, and suddenly her consciousness expanded. She was aware of everything: the crystalline sand beneath her feet, the spectral forms of Nova's ancestors, the confused and terrified minds of the hunters. Nova's consciousness merged with hers, and together they reached out toward the aliens who had pursued them so relentlessly. Samantha felt Nova's intention: not to attack or dominate, but to share, to help the hunters understand. The effect was immediate and profound. The hunters' smoke-like bodies stopped writhing, becoming still as statues. Samantha could sense their minds opening, drinking in the flood of information and sensation that Nova was sharing. Through their joined consciousness, Samantha witnessed the history of Nova's species unfold. She saw their evolution from simple creatures to beings of pure energy and thought. She felt their deep connection to the cosmos, their ability to perceive the very fabric of space-time. But more than that, she felt their philosophy, their ethos. Nova's people had not used their incredible powers to dominate or conquer. Instead, they had become guardians of life throughout the galaxy, nurturing young civilizations and maintaining the delicate balance of cosmic forces. The hunters' minds reeled with this new understanding. Samantha could sense their shock, their shame, and finally, their awe. The fear that had driven them to hunt Nova's kind melted away, replaced by a deep reverence. Slowly, gently, Nova began to withdraw from the mental link. Samantha found herself back in her own body, gasping as if she had run a marathon. She looked up to see the hunters kneeling before Nova, their smoke-like forms now shimmering with a faint blue light. Nova's mental voice, tired but triumphant, echoed in Samantha's mind. It is done. They understand now. The hunt is over. Samantha struggled to her feet, her legs shaky. That was incredible, she breathed. But what happens now? As if in answer, the spectral forms of Nova's ancestors began to coalesce, forming a swirling vortex of energy. Nova turned to Samantha, those huge eyes filled with a mixture of joy and sadness. My people call to me, Nova explained. It is time for me to join them, to learn and grow into what I am meant to be. Samantha felt her heart clench. You're leaving. But, I thought. Nova's trunk reached out, gently touching Samantha's cheek. A wave of gratitude and affection washed over her. You saved me, Samantha. You showed me the best of what humanity can be. I will never forget that. And I promise you, we will meet again. Tears streamed down Samantha's face as she knelt to embrace Nova one last time. Thank you, she whispered, for everything, for showing me wonders I never dreamed existed. Nova's form began to shimmer and fade, merging with the swirling energy of its ancestors. The hunters stood, their bodies now pulsing with that same ethereal light. They turned to Samantha, and she felt a sense of profound respect emanating from them. One of the hunters stepped forward, extending a hand. In it was a small, crystalline object that seemed to hold galaxies within its depths. Samantha accepted it, understanding the gesture for what it was, a thank you, and a promise of future connection. As Nova and the hunters ascended into the swirling vortex of energy, Samantha heard Nova's final thoughts. Remember, Samantha, you are not alone in the universe, and you have a greater role to play than you yet know. In a flash of blinding light, they were gone. Samantha stood alone on the plain of Novaterra, the crystalline object clutched to her chest. She looked up at the alien sky, a smile tugging at her lips despite her tears. Well, she said softly, I guess my research just got a lot more interesting. As she turned to walk back to her research station, Samantha felt a profound sense of change. Her quiet exile was over. She had glimpsed the true wonders of the cosmos, and now she had a new mission, to prepare humanity for the incredible journey that lay ahead. The twin suns of Novaterra climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the crystalline plain. And somewhere out there, among the stars, a young alien child and its newfound guardians began their own journey, carrying with them the memory of a brave human scientist who had changed the course of galactic history.